All the doctor has to do is just come around here, push this one little button. Okay, somebody get the fire extinguisher.
A TV series about a team of wacky scientists and superpowered beings investigating various goings-on. One of them can shrink, one has telekinetic powers, one of them can fire bolts of lightning, and one of them tells jokes. It's a great superpower, but one that's going to get old really quickly when you're stuck next to them on a long bus ride.
It's great, but next time you don't have to be so obvious, okay?
Who are these people?
Misfits of Science.
Well, I happen to be a very close and personal friend of Elliot Ness.
That's it, wise guy.
Misfits of Science was a short-lived TV series that ran on NBC for half a season from October of 1985, and then quickly disappeared like the invisible cheapskate every time the check arrives.
Dear boy, don't worry, I'll get the tip.
Misfits of Science is not a comedy, but it's full of snappy banter. It's not a superhero show, though there's an element of that. It's more of an 80s action-adventure series that, looking back, remains fairly unique.
Love that.
With its pop song intro, 80s style, wacky situations, occasionally subversive or absurd humour.
This is in progress?
Plus relatively decent special effects for a TV series at the time, Misfits could have been really big. But, alas, like the proposed movie Aliens vs. Webster, it was just not meant to be.
Stop it, no!
Series creator James D. Parriot had been a writer for classic series The $6 Million Man, The Bionic Woman, and The Incredible Hulk. He'd already created the short-lived time travel series Voyagers. With Misfits of Science, we got the closest that we'd ever get to a live-action Ghostbusters-style romp on television, with zany scientists dealing with the unusual rather than the unexplained. Which is the difference between working out whether it was your levitating roommate who ate the leftovers in the fridge, or you have a poltergeist who really likes cold noodles.
Now don't for 1 minute think this is company policy. I'm on my own time here.
In Misfits of Science, 3 of the leads have an extra human ability, though they're mostly facing off against fairly standard human adversaries. You know, enemy spies, gangsters, the military, various government agencies, and it seems, viewers.
Misfits of Science, ha!
Misfits of Science began with a double-length pilot episode kicking off with a version of Thomas Dolby's She Blinded Me with Science playing over the opening titles. Scientists Dr. Billy Hayes and Dr. Elvin Lincoln are stuck in a dead-end division of government contractor Humanidyne, where they research people with unusual abilities in order to understand them.
Mr. Miller, the Invisible Man, called again. He said he's been in to see you 6 times, but you treat him like he's not even here.
While their superiors are more interested in any potential military or commercial applications. For example, an agent with ESP could easily read the mind of an enemy agent in order to steal their password. But at the same time, they'd be a cheating bastard when it comes to playing Battleship. Billy and Elle's mentor, Dr. Momquist, is being sidelined over military efforts to build a neutron beam cannon for the military. Meanwhile, a frozen man has been brought into the lab. He needs ultra-low temperatures or he will die. But at the same time, Iceman, or Beef, has an Amelia Earhart fixation which is complicating things somewhat.
Beef Eater! Beef, listen to me!
Just then, the human investigation team is shut down and Billy and Elle are out of a job. While licking their wounds, Elle reveals that he has experimented on himself, as at nearly 7'4", he's really sick of getting impromptu haircuts from ceiling fans. Dr. Momquist is being held prisoner, and Billy and Elle put together a team of some former research subjects in order to mount a rescue. None of whom are too keen to be called on, only for Billy to use their powers.
Do you realize what you're saying? Because he hated your guts when he left the lab.
There's the rocker, Johnny B, who can shoot bolts of lightning, and wayward teen Gloria, who has telekinetic powers. There's also social worker Jane, who comes along to make sure Gloria doesn't get into any more trouble. Here's where the Misfits, travelling around in an ice cream truck in order to keep Beef cool, begin to work together.
I'm pretty darn excited about this plan, okay? Because we're ready, we're a team, and we're organized.
Elle shrinks to a tiny size where he dresses in a Ken doll outfit and does his thing. Gloria manages to make some guards dizzy, while Billy holds off a number of guards by flinging lightning bolts. I mean, act actual lightning bolts, not somebody saying lightning bolt, without a trace of either irony or dignity at a live-action role-playing event.
The high-security military complex at Humanodyne last night, done by a group of subversives called the Misfits of Science.
After their daring rescue, the world is now aware of the Misfits of Science, named after Billy's extracurricular basketball team. But their celebrity will have to wait, since there are bigger issues at play.
Do you have any idea what this is going to do to my mother?
In addition to Dr. William Hayes.
There's worldwide fear and condemnation of the military potentially building the deadly neutron beam cannon. The government will only sanction the construction of the weapon if they're satisfied that nobody can get into the purpose-built storage facility. The Misfits take it on themselves to show that that facility is not impregnable, but then it turns out that the military have already built a neutron beam cannon. The Misfits win the day, and everybody cheers when Frank Burns blows up. Billy and Elle have their jobs back, where they'll get up to all kinds of wacky adventures at the rate of roughly, one a week. Okay, well, that wasn't entirely the case, but like sniffing paint with lead in it, it was fun while it lasted.
Those wild and crazy scientific guys, I love them. Yeah, those Misfits.
For the series proper, Iceman disappeared, though the ice cream truck as their wacky work vehicle remained. Billy and Elle are back working at Humanodyne with supervisor Stetmeyer trying to organise the lab, which is a bit like trying to herd cats, but only if the cats each had several degrees.
They're not just toys, Richard. Except for this one. See, this is the one that those vice cops drive on TV. Comes with little miniature plastic drug dealers.
Billy Hayes is a fast-talking scientist without any superpowers other than being a smart-ass. He's lousy with money, he's always chatting up women and getting nowhere, though underneath the banter is an empathetic soul ready to help out people in trouble.
We're talking frontiers here. We're talking major breakthroughs. We're talking to go where no man has ever gone before.
Dean Paul Martin was of course the son of Dean Martin, and he had been a singer in the 60s, a tennis pro, and had an on-again, off-again acting career when he was cast as the lead in Misfits of Science.
I thought we had something. Oh, Sherry! Who's Sherry? The international drug dealer?
Billy's special abilities, improvisation, and recklessness, where he gets things wrong almost as often as he gets them right.
I'm going to prison.
This is a big reason that Misfits feels so different from a lot of other shows of the day.
The memory experiments. You forgot? I forgot.
Billy's not nasty, but he can be a selfish jerk at times, doing whatever's expedient for him at everyone else's expense. Sounds just like my office nemesis Alex Smelly, when he goes home early, but also clocks you out despite you being rostered for a double shift.
It's okay, I'll punch you out.
We don't have a time clock.
That's right.
I just thought it was Billy being Billy.
Dr. Elvin Lincoln, usually nicknamed L, was over 7 foot, yet he was annoyed by his extreme height combined with the fact that he was, against expectations, lousy at basketball.
I've got 10 uniforms just like the one I'm wearing, sitting on a shelf at home now, waiting for me 7'4" star center to learn to play ball.
He'd experimented with the growth hormone to try and make himself what he termed a more normal size.
I want to be able to buy my clothes in normal people's shops.
But instead found that he could shrink to the size of a doll for short periods. Elle is usually the voice of reason within the team, much more cautious than Billy, yet is always prepared for sudden capers by keeping a supply of doll-sized fashions in his pockets in case of sudden shrinkage.
This is all a toy store had in my size.
Kevin Peter Hall was quite often to be found in a monster suit. It was he who donned the alien suit in the first Predator movies and played the title character in Harry and the Hendersons. Here, he's just one of the team, who just happens to be both the tallest and the smallest member of the team.
Conversely, his brain is being subjected to mindless images and random noises here.
You can forget it, JR. I'm not leaving Southpaw.
Johnny Bukowski, or Johnny B, was a musician who loved rock and roll, yet he had powers where he could manipulate electricity.
Better go to acoustic.
Fire it as a lightning bolt or drain electrical systems around him. However, he was also averse to water, so he wouldn't be my pick for a teammate for synchronized swimming.
Remember I had this little thing with water?
Johnny B can also run incredibly fast, though his powers can run out fairly quickly. On occasion, he needs to vent electricity to prevent a lethal buildup.
Maybe you have to try and load a few amps.
No time now. You should have gone before.
Try to hold it.
He'd gotten his powers through an accident on stage during a show. Now look, I dig. I once had an accident on stage, but fortunately all I required was a change of pants, a mop and a bucket.
What if I killed him, Johnny B?
Gloria Dinallo, often known as Glow, was a troubled teen who was born with telekinetic abilities. She'd been in trouble with the law, though working as one of the Misfits has helped her turn her life around.
I knew it! I knew they'd be late. Probably in there goofing off.
The Gloria we see in the series is a pretty normal teenager. She works part-time in a burger joint and later on is fixated on getting her driver's license and then borrowing Billy's car.
One last walk, then what? Then back to a cage in the lab?
Glow once had a crush on Johnny B and doesn't like it when people keep asking her to use her telekinetic abilities on minor things. Look, if I had telekinetic powers, I would use it mainly to cheat at table tennis. You should see how competitive we get in the break room at work. It's a literal bloodbath sometimes. A table tennis bloodbath, with each match ending with at least somebody heading off to the emergency room. No, I totally don't think we're taking things too far, taking it too seriously. Table tennis is more than just a fun way to troll your uncoordinated co-workers. Ping pong is life. Anyway, enough of this table tennis shit. Save it for the break room, where I will annihilate you. Yes, you, Mandy from accounts, you owe me a rematch. The last 16 times you won were a total fluke, and I'm bringing my inhaler with me next time just to make absolutely sure. Anyway, back to Misfits of Science. When Billy is sent to jail, it is Gloria who gives him his best advice.
If they give you any trouble in here, just mention my name.
Courteney Cox was a relative newcomer, with this being one of her earliest credits.
Right already, my index finger is killing me.
Jane Miller was Gloria's probation officer, and there's a mutual attraction between her and Billy. And then a few episodes in, Jane reveals she's pregnant, appears for a few more episodes, and then disappears.
Maybe it wasn't as bad as I said it was.
Jennifer Holmes, on the other hand, had done a lot of guest shots on other series, and in the few episodes she does appear in, Jane was pretty much the most normal person, somebody who could express wonder at the sorts of things we'd see in the series.
What do you have in there?
A baby?
No, I'm in a cage.
A mouse.
For the series proper, the Misfits gained Dick Stetmeyer as their much put-upon supervisor. Stetmeyer is the company man, often at odds with the Misfits, where he just sees them as a pain in the ass that he has to deal with. Though that may have just been the thumbtack he's just sat on.
I love this.
That's a $70,000 piece of equipment, Hayes.
Stetmeyer starts the show by trying to keep the Misfits at arm's length personally, but gradually grows to respect them, while the team also end up liking Stetmeyer.
You understand? It's a bad. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
The last regular character was Miss Nance, played by Diane Civita, where she's also married to series creator James Parriot. Civita, of course, also appeared in the miniseries V.
The human fly showed up early, so I told him to wait 10 minutes and give you a buzz.
Miss Nance doesn't usually play a large role in episodes, but often gets some of the show's best gags, where she reads back messages.
Heard the invisible man called. This is his 7th day at the tanning salon, but he can't tell if it's working.
Misfits of Science is totally not a series inspired by the 1984 blockbuster Ghostbusters. Nope, not at all. But the timing is, more than a little coincidental. And look, a show that captures the fun and spirit of Ghostbusters sounds like it could have had potential. It was aimed at a younger audience with a very 1980s look and a slightly satiric vibe.
A hot tub salesman that gets framed as a spy. It's called Jacuzzi.
TV critics at the time were not impressed, but the executives at NBC were behind the series 100%. Until, of course, they pulled the show after 15 one-hour episodes had been made.
I have to say that anything I know about lying and deception, I learned from these folks right here.
Thanks, Dick.
Misfits of Science started off well enough, but ended up more of a misfire. But here we are decades later talking about it, so just why are we here? Misfits starts off with a bang with a really solid to very good pilot episode that set up some interesting situations going forward. However, once the weekly episodes began, that's where it sort of falls apart slightly. The satiric edge of the pilot was missing, there's still humour, it's just not as sharp in early episodes. More obviously though, Iceman disappears and the Misfits now have the supervisor in the form of Stetmeyer, a fussy bureaucrat trying to keep the team on schedule and under budget.
Do you think that in a parallel universe, they all respect me?
After a promising pilot, the business of making a weekly series seems to have run into the same wall that so many series based on a promising pilot run into. What do you do next? We start shooting on Monday and we need the scripts 5 minutes ago. So this is where Misfits starts to falter.
I assure you, we have nothing to hide. Please, don't go in there!
A man from the jungle has travelled far to place a figure honouring his late son on the spacecraft.
Logger, he brought the soul of his dead little boy halfway across the world just to send it up on your precious top-secret shuttle.
A celebrated graffiti artist played by the future producer of Independence Day can read ancient Mayan maps to a treasure trove somewhere in Beverly Hills.
It's the Santa Monica Mountains. That's what happened to the Mayans. They went to L.A.
An unpopular co-worker of Billy and Elle thinks he has made contact with aliens.
They're not aliens, man! Parriot's a missile.
A few episodes veered close to the standard action series tropes, an episode revolving around a wrestling fan who's become a crime fighter after he mistook Gloria's powers for his own abilities. One episode is set in the world of two-wheeled racing, another has the Misfits trying to help a visiting Russian gymnast escape to live with her father who had defected years earlier. Some irradiated senior citizens regain their vitality for a time, a dolphin is used to hunt for submerged cocaine, there's an angry rat. I mean, we're not seeing anything all that amazing here.
Don't hurt him.
Don't hurt him? What about me?
Some of the episodes work better than others, but the one saving grace is Misfits plots for the most part did not feel like they would work in too many other shows. Though that didn't stop them riffing on other properties. In one episode, Billy wants to be Indiana Jones, while in another he's trying to live out his Miami Vice fantasies.
Don't you ever watch TV?
While this is first and foremost a show about Billy, Elvin had a few spotlight episodes, Johnny B has a few romances, while Glow and Stetmeyer have major roles throughout the series. Some episodes don't even use a particular ability, so Elvin doesn't use his shrinking powers absolutely every week. Johnny B's powers are used sparingly in some episodes, while Gloria's telekinetic abilities were always in demand. Of course, in order for some drama, you need to nerf the superpowers, so Johnny B had to recharge or couldn't be near water. Elvin only had a limited time in his shrunken form, and Gloria had to be able to see in order to use her limited powers. So to get around that, she's occasionally blindfolded.
Tax shelters, that's important. It's important to know the tax shelter thing.
Once they had a few episodes under their belts, the producers would find ways to make Johnny B and Gloria's powers incorporated into the scripts a little better, and the show did start to find its feet, just perhaps a little too late.
I feel ridiculous wearing this thing. I mean, just because you had them lying around.
We're a team, B-Man. The uniforms, they help us think like a team. Besides, I had them lying around.
Aside from the pilot, which I've praised enough already, there are a couple of episodes that showed the series' potential, mostly from the latter part of the season. Fumble on the One was an episode that featured a college rival of Billy, Brick, who was an agent whose mind had blocked out the fact that he was bionic. Yes, it's a riff on the $6 Million Man in places.
Does anyone else feel like Peter Graves?
Other parts of this spy-themed episode reference Mission Impossible.
Whoa!
So maybe I just appreciated it as a parody, but Billy being all sorts of put out at having to work with Brick was a lot of fun. In Center of Attention, Elle gets to fulfill a desire to be good at basketball by going undercover to find out if a player is really a jinx or there's some other reason for his teammates' poor performance. At first, Elle needs help from Gloria, but Billy finds a way for Elle to use his knowledge of physics to help him play basketball on his own.
Scientifically, how'd that ball reach you?
The angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection.
That's right. But what makes it drop?
Gravity.
He fires. It's on the way. It's go!
Just as my grandma Eileen always said, a clip show always fucking sucks. She had a mouth on her. Look, I don't make the rules, but a clip show does suck. And what sucks worse, a clip show after a show has yet to run even a full season.
In my dream, we were good friends.
Quiet.
Misfits does have a clip show which has a framing device of Billy dreaming everybody else is in a different role. Elle is Billy's supervisor and the pair aren't friends. Miss Nance is their boss, Stetmeyer is a janitor, Johnny B is a nerdy electrician, and Glow is in security. So with that, the cast is able to play a different character in the newly shot material, which makes the Misfits clip show enjoyable enough. Clip shows aren't just clips, there's always the framing device that still takes a few days to shoot, but it does help balance the show's budget and schedule. What? It does? Well, that reminds me of the time we covered the mid-80s television series Automan. Man, that was so much fun. And there was also the time we covered Manimal, which was pilloried out of existence, but it's a special type of goofy fun. And remember the time we covered Cop Rock. Well, I guess not. The final episode of Misfits of Science also stood out as having the satirical humour that had mostly been missing since the pilot. Billy is in jail, charged with selling state secrets, because his blender has inadvertently had a classified chip in it.
What are you in here for, Mr. Williams?
Nothing, man. They say I killed this 17-year-old dude, but that's a lie. The dude was 19 at least.
Part of the episode is presented as a news report as Billy covers for Stetmeyer, who may or may not be selling government secrets.
Don't shoot! They're the Misfits of Science!
But after that movie-length pilot and a further 15 weekly episodes, well, that was it for the Misfits of Science.
Hey, face it, it's over. We're history.
It's another entry in the vault of almost.
Well, did he ever get over it?
Why don't you ask him? He's right inside there.
No, I am not.
My mistake. He's at work today.
While some 80s adventure series were embracing electronic soundtracks, Misfits went all in on a mid-80s pop sound. The theme tune from Basil Poledouris, who's also given us music for RoboCop and The Hunt for Red October, among many others, is peak 80s synth pop with a vocal hook at the end that perplexed me for years. I worked out she's singing Class Dismissed, and then I second-guessed myself and thought singer Karen Lawrence was actually speaking in some alien tongue, and the words Class Dismissed actually mean please watch this if you're in the Nielsen rating survey.
Not so easy, huh?
But on reflection, she's just saying Class Dismissed. Also, an attempt to get the show's full title into a lyric was tricky, so why bother? The Misfits title tune is a song that, in various parlance, it rocks, it slaps, it's a banger and an earworm. There are only 15 weekly episodes, yet the theme song has been stuck in my head like a creature from SETI Alpha 5. Many episodes feature covers of rock and roll songs on the soundtrack, while others feature songs sung in the episode by Johnny B. But that's by the by. He unfortunately never ended a song by singing Class Dismissed. So, what are you gonna do? After the series ended, well, we have to go with the bad stuff first. Dean Paul Martin and Kevin Peter Hall both sadly died in their mid-30s. Martin had been a pilot in the Air National Guard and died in a fighter plane crash. Both actors had made Misfits something that's still enjoyable decades later.
Until we find the real one, which we already did, but now see the bad guys got the other Dwayne shot, and the real Dwayne shot is about to be shot, and if we... Hello?
Series creator James D. Parriot would work as a writer for years and later create the vampire detective series Forever Night. The future creator of superhero drama Heroes, Tim Kring made an early sale as a writer to Misfits of Science. Max Wright would go on to star in Alf for several seasons, and of course Courteney Cox went on to become a megastar when she starred in 10 seasons of Friends. Yes, that's Courteney Cox who starred in 10, count them, 10 seasons of the sitcom Friends, which began in 1994. Courteney Cox starred in Friends.
Hello? Hello? Is somebody there?
Misfits of Science still had a lot of expensive effects. Optical effects for Johnny B's talents, negative effects and fast editing for Gloria's telekinetic abilities, and blue screen effects for L when he's in his shrunken form. Though here it's carried out on videotape and then transferred back to film. Either way, the effects for the series do their job quite well for the time.
A doctor, scientist, on a scientific investigation to inspect this lab.
I watched Misfits of Science, or at least the first few episodes when it was briefly screened locally, and while I had enjoyed the pilot an awful lot, I must have dropped off the show fairly quickly. Either that or the station playing the show decided they'd get better ratings replaying something else, like, I don't know, repeats of weather reports from 1967.
Walk through the valley of darkness, fearing a lot of evil, and... Are we just gonna... No! That was easy.
Watching it now, where the only official DVD release I could find was from Europe, and then it looks like it's from a well-worn 16mm copy, I am struck by how different the show ultimately was from its contemporaries, and how this type of show quickly disappeared from American networks around the time Misfits was cancelled.
Boom, 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 boom.
There was a subset of 80s action-adventure series which concentrated on people with extraordinary abilities, where the series had definite comedic leanings, but very few caught on. Greatest American Hero lasted a few seasons, series like Automan and Manimal were cancelled even faster than Misfits.
Gloria, just take Richard's hand, and if there are any monsters or rats, He'll take care of it.
Rats!
Okay, everybody ready?
Rats!
Misfits! Ho!
After shows like Misfits failed, quirky genre shows like this would more or less disappear for a while. But then we had the 90s syndication boom, which would lead to sci-fi and later Netflix, building up small empires of shows about wacky superpowered beings, which they then abruptly cancelled.
We did it!
Are you busy Saturday night?
Misfits of Science was an almost great mix of comedy and action-adventure, and even when it doesn't live up to the potential of the pilot, I still found it really watchable. It's a lot of fun, cheesy and silly, but that is pretty much what they were going for.
I can't think of one single reason why not.
Misfits of Science is an interesting premise with a lot of potential, an easy-to-watch cast, some snappy writing in places, wanting only for weekly episodes to have plots worthy of the series concept.
I'm telling you guys, I had a feeling in my gut that we were really onto something.
It is a bit dated in places, but ahead of its time in others. And how mad is it that the theme song is such an enjoyable earworm? Class dismissed. If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.
Chloe, you smell pretty good.
Billy, I'm underage, all right?
All right, I mean, how bad could the rap be for statutory smell, huh?
Billy,